Welcome to Behind the Citgo, where we pull back the curtain on the unseen truth of addiction recovery and talk about things most people never get a chance to see. I'm your host, Josh Torbich. Each week, we're sitting down with people who lived it, led it, and are still learning from it today. This isn't polished, it's real, it's raw, and it's noted in the faith and hope because we do recover. So whether you're in recovery, walking alongside someone who is, or just trying to understand what healing really looks like, you came to the right place. Let's dig in. Hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode Behind the Citgo. I brought some heavy bench strength from up on the northern end of the county today, my friend Jeremy Gunn. I know Jeremy from the commission that we get to serve on, the Brunswick County Substance Use Mental Health Commission. You've been a part of that now for going on 2 years.
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
That's right. Yep.
But more importantly, Jeremy is a local business owner. He is the owner of JBG Painting. And one of the reasons that we quickly bonded, and I just want you to elaborate a little bit more on this, is because I quickly saw the heart that you had for second chances for people who are going through recovery programs when it comes to your personal sentiment as far as using your business as a major tool to reacclimate them into the workspace. Yeah?
That's correct. Absolutely.
Yeah, watching as people enter the recovery programs, you kind of watch them, they develop a perspective very quickly of, okay, this thing has to get me somewhere, and it always lands where employment is a major part of that, and understanding that not many business owners have a similar heart of the second chance school. So first of all, you got a personal story and some sorts that brings you to that place where your heart leans in the direction of second chances for people?
Absolutely. My own personal story.
Share with us about that.
So I've been sober myself 6.5 years.
Wow.
My main primary addiction is alcohol. Alcoholic, realized, recognized, understood, own it. That's the thing. Younger years, I did some other things, but alcohol was always the one that kept calling me back. And so my own personal journey, of course, it's the date ingrained, October, 21st, 2019. That was the day, and the reborn day. And then the actual day of recognition was Christmas Day. Wow. When I really, truly understood that I was an alcoholic. I really got it that day. My life changed after that. I quit my job and focused on new things. And a couple years after that, my company was born, so just recognizing that, and figuring out your potential.
Do you see that piece, second chances for you? Now you're trying to create second chances for others inside of your employment opportunities. That's kind of where you tie yourself down to it. Yeah.
Everything reflects there. I look at my life. I'm 50 years old, and my moment of clarity was at 44. And so I spent a lot of years in a
running and gunning.
That's right. Being operating in blinders, high functioning alcoholic.
Yeah.
I had a successful career in the restoration industry, did very well, provided for my family, but I always had that anchor holding me down, those chains. And, I never really understood that, there was more outside of that. Every night I got to figure out when I'm going to start drinking.
Yeah, well, it's if you were to go into our programs right now and ask the folks who are in there, hey, how many of you are going to have to go work at least 40 hours a week when you finish this rehab thing to go sustain yourself? Every hand goes up.
Yeah.
They all got to go back to work. But one of the things we know that is oftentimes work, because they spend so much time at it, and because it's such a significant need in their life, sometimes hold the key to start leading them back towards their old addictive tendencies. It's that cultural aspect for it. I guess we make the joke about construction. Sorry, you're in construction.
That's right.
We make the joke about construction, and it's like, if you want to go find where to score something, go to a construction site and start talking to a few people.
Painters especially. Painters are notorious because it's really easy. You got bloodshot eyes. Well, that's just because I've been spraying all day.
Yeah.
It's very, very easy to hide it that way. You smell something, a little funny odor. Well, it's just the oil-based paint. Yeah.
But you have an active commitment to push back on those type of, like, what we would call norms in society, where drug addiction is really prevalent, but you've done it in a very unique way by creating more dialogue around that being an open conversation. So talk to me about that. When folks need help who are a part of your company, you approach it very differently than most other human resources departments would in other companies.
That's yeah, and really it all stems from being involved in understanding more of a personal aspect of where your employees are at in their lives. And to not be intrusive with that is where you've got to find the happy medium. You've got to figure out where someone you're going to bring aboard represents your core values, not within your company, but do they aspire to have more in their lives? So as a business owner, what can I offer that individual to hit their personal and selfish goals outside of their professional goals? And so that ties into, if someone is coming out of a program, if you have something to look forward to, how can I inspire them? How can I create opportunity to give them drive and focus to look at that thing versus revert to the other thing that I know I can get some instant gratification on? So how do I play the long game? How do I help that person play the long game? And how can we get them through step by step to figure out, like, hey, do I want to buy a house next year? What do I got to do? Who do I got to talk to? Provide those type of opportunities and understand that that's what they want. And with my company, the way I represent myself, I want people that do that. You have better quality people that have things in their life. If they have a family that they need to provide for, if they have something they just want to do, let's say they wanted a Camaro their whole life, and that's like the most important thing. Maybe that links back to their father had one, but those are the things that you got to get to the root of and find out if your employees want those types of things. And then you as a business owner, how do you create a pathway to get there and make it real?
Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, you're kind of carrying the load of not just, hey, there's a monetary exchange that's taking place here. You come do this for me and I'll pay you. But it's like you're kind of wearing this cloak of mentorship for so many of them. Because that's really what you're describing is like, hey, this isn't going to just be a transactional relationship. We have a heart for you and we want to see you be successful. So talk to me about the unexpected challenges, because you're doing a really good job elaborating on what this active mentorship looks like, but it introduces unique challenges when you have a heart that leans into something like this.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, challenges in general as a business owner, one of the biggest things that you'll hear business owners talk about is there's no good help out there. And so understanding what you're going to be able to offer is going to offer the benefit of giving and getting people that are better quality people. But you have to layer benefits. You have to layer value into what you offer someone, so that if you can inspire someone to do better for you, you'll get better quality people. Now, hiring someone who's out of a program or has an addiction, understanding that they're coming with that is very important. Understanding the personality. As a business owner, you should understand personality types anyway. Adding that additional layer of understanding the personality of an addict on top of their personality, that right there is probably going to be the biggest challenge for a business owner, especially if they don't understand addiction. So educating yourself, getting out there and learning what an addict faces will then help you understand what they're coming in with. You throw some inspiration at an addict and you'll see them hit the ceiling. I mean, and then want to go beyond that. And so biggest thing for me is investing in how I can understand and relate to people.
Yeah, you're right. Like once you see them tap into the motivation, what really drives them, and they start kind of cultivating a life that they aspire to be a part of, it really is impressive. I mean, the hardest workers, the kindest, most generous people sometimes come from our recovery programs, and watching how quickly they turn the tables on really engaging with that new successful life.
Well, and if there's one thing I know for sure is that I know that for sure. I know how grateful I am for every day that I am above ground
personally,
right now, 100%. And so, having that ability to understand that that's just a piece of it. An addict works so hard to stay high. If they take and that energy goes to something else and they realize that they have that potential and that they have these opportunities, and you can open that and show that to them and support them in that, and that you can integrate them with people that maybe aren't addicts but treat them as an equal, then the sky's the limit. And then you'll get, then the rest of it's okay. Now how do I find more work, because they're getting it done so fast?
Yeah, that's good. And when they truly feel like you're taking care of them as an owner in a company, they want to give more to what kind of is helping shepherd them into a new life like that. The philosophy is kind of like, do you have a different approach in the way you handle these things for people coming out of a recovery background and the folks that you hire who don't really have that kind of experience? Is there a difference?
The only difference is that I guess I have that understanding. I don't treat anybody any differently. I'm very upfront that this is a business. This is not something that's programmed around someone in recovery, but the understanding that the opportunity is there just like it is for anybody else. And it's across the board that there's an understanding with anybody that comes into my organization, whether they've come out of recovery, they've had any issues, or they haven't, that this is all a part of who we bring in, that we're bringing in people that have goals and dreams and aspirations to do better for themselves and understand what our mission is.
It starts with the kind of a belief that people are redeemable.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
kind of where you lean into this, I think, is, I, as a business owner, inherently believe that people are redeemable. So I approach people who have potential that way,
That's
believing
right.
that they can do more than what even their current situation leads way to. Do you ever get any backlash from folks inside of your workforce who have been there for a while, or maybe your right hand, and they look at this and they're like, bro, you're about to give this guy another chance after what he did, or you're about to give this guy an opportunity, and don't you know where he came from?
There's always questions, especially when you're bringing somebody in, and some of my people have been with me, 3 years or more, and so there's always that more personal relationship with folks. But a lot of times, what I'll be able to do is give especially my leadership team, a heads up that, hey, we've got this person coming in. This is their background. This is what's going on. Um, if I need to tell them anything personal, I'll make that decision. But for the most part, that front end conversation's already happened with the potential employee. That I understand, what's going on. If there's anything that you experience when you're coming in that makes you feel uncomfortable, just let me know, and we'll go through it, go from there. But having that understanding and recognition, and a lot of that comes through really good interviewing. Having the ability to extract information from someone during an interview without asking them personal questions about what's your background with drugs and alcohol, people will, if they get comfortable, will volunteer that information. And so it allows me to understand how I can start the communication process and then the transition into our organization. Having our team, our leads, meet with the individuals before they go out in the field, spend some time with them before we go out and do working interviews, just get to know them. And so if I can prepare them for that, if that's a necessary thing to give them before they start talking, then I'll make sure that that's there.
Yeah, I can see that's really. What do you think the major hesitation from most business owners are when they approach hiring somebody who might be a convicted felon, or who perhaps has a recovery background or some type of substance use disorder that they've been struggling with, and they open up with that kind of information? What do most employers go, whoa, 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 this person could what?
Lack of understanding. Somebody who's going to be more truthful with you and direct with you in an interview, that wears it on their sleeve, is probably going to be honest and better for you in general. When you reach into the depths or you do a background check and you find something out that maybe somebody has tried to hide from you, um, if you feel that that person may bring value, to open that up and have that conversation and say, hey, I found this in your background. Can we talk about this? And then if you as an employer feel comfortable to make that next step, you have to be able to know and recognize that. I mean, as an employer, if you're really going to have employees, W-2 employees that are going to come into your organization every single day, you've got to protect yourself as well. So I can respect hesitancy if somebody has something in their background, because you also have to put those people in homes. I go into people's homes that are valuable homes. We're going to Mayfair, we're going to some of these really high end, places on islands, things like that, multi-million-dollar homes. And so I have to feel confident that my customers feel confident as well. And I will tell them that, just like I'm talking to you. I will tell my people that are potential hires, like, what would make me, can you make me feel comfortable with what you've done in your background, so that when I release you into the wild, that my customers are going to feel how I feel when we finish this conversation.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
That's a good perspective to
Yeah.
to bring that into a dialogue whenever you're going through an interview process with it. And there is a certain, and we feel the same way inside of our programs, like when they've been forthcoming you automatically start to lean in the direction of, okay, they're working towards reform. They're owning this thing. They're not trying to shy away from it. They've been really transparent, because isn't that old addictive behavior keeping your what is the joke that they always made in the 12-step rooms? You're only as sick as your secrets,
Right.
right?
Right.
So you can always tell the person who's in recovery who's really trying to shy away from that version. Well, it's because there might be still some qualities linking to them that old version of themselves. And that's an interesting concept. When most employers look at somebody that they want to seek as a potential employee, I think that a lot of them think, is this person going to be worth the risk? And that it's a hard concept, because you could go find other people who don't have all of those ugly risks that are way out front. Everybody has their stuff, right? Just because somebody is a drug addict or an alcoholic doesn't automatically translate into them stealing from you, something like that. But most people, I think, when they see that type of behavior, they automatically tie it to like theft. Will this person steal from me? Or will this person treat my equipment the right way? Will this person get me into trouble with my customers? Can I trust this person not to cuss out somebody that we're doing a painting job for?
That's right. That's right. That's well, and everybody comes with scars, and so having people that have had the breakthrough, that really understand who they are, and have come through the program if they're in a program, or even if they haven't come through a program and they have had the moment of clarity and they understand what they carry with them, it's therapeutic for them to talk about it. And those are the people that pour it right out to you. As soon as they understand that, oh my gosh, I can talk about this, they want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because who do they get to talk about it to? And then especially if somebody who that, man, if I can have opportunities with this individual, and I mean, I want to be able to tell them everything I can do and what I've overcome. And I mean, it makes them feel like a superhero, because they took the thing in their life that was the thing that they carried with them for so many years in many cases. And now here I am about to get a job. And this, you tell me this job maybe has the ability to not just have this role as a painter, but maybe I could be a team lead, or who knows what, you could maybe an estimator, whatever. And if that's what they want to do and they see that in front of them, get them excited, then hey man, now you get to meet the crew. And hopefully all the rest of them have that same line of thought, and you all get like-minded and you all get excited together.
Yeah, you start seeing the cultivation, and then it works for itself.
That's
doesn't
right.
it? Yeah, the wave kind of takes off and everyone's on that wave. What do you have the heavy lift that comes from like the mentorship component that you described in the beginning? Do you have like an internal radar that helps you measure success? Like, hey, do you ever ask yourself, with John Doe employee that I've really been pouring it into, is it working? Is the seat, because in recovery ourselves, there has to come a place where you want it more than everyone else around you, or else it won't work, right? Like
Right.
you can't want it for me as my boss and really hope that I get well. And hey, I see all this potential in you. Oftentimes it don't matter if they don't want it equal parts for themselves. Do you have any gears in there that start determining on how you're measuring? Hey, is this thing moving in the right direction? What are those cues?
If you're in tune with who you've got around you, you can pick up on their energy. You can see it. I have some structure in my business where every single Friday we sit down at the table in our break room and we have a meeting. And before we start that meeting, everyone has a moment to call it a whiffle, and that stands for what I feel like expressing. And you start off by saying what I feel like expressing is, and you can talk about anything you want. You can talk about the fact that you're going to go see the Lantern Festival for the holidays this weekend. You're really looking forward to it. Or you can just be glad that it's Friday. And then you have to end it with what I feel like expressing. Now, sometimes people come out with a whole bunch of stuff, or sometimes it's very quick, very short. Hey, because what I feel like expressing is I just want you guys to know that I asked for the day off coming up. I'll remind you of that, whatever. And that's what I feel like expressing. Okay, cool. What that does is it gives everybody a voice at that table. And then we can also take the temperature of where everybody's at during that moment before the meeting starts. And if you see somebody who's not up and making eye contact and not part now the people that are brand new come in and they're like, what is
Little
this?
gunshot,
Like,
yeah.
oh my gosh. But then they see that the guys that they're working under, and that maybe you want one of those team lead positions, and then that team lead's leading off with, what I feel like expressing is, man, I'm so glad that blah 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 got done, and I want to throw a shout out to such and such, and they see the energy and the excitement coming, so then they pick up on that, and then that starts to then echo out into the crew. And then that goes out into the field. And so you can recognize a lot right there. One really good thing is my team leads and I have a really good, strong dialogue. And so one of them is come out of a recovery program. One of them has not. They both are treated equally. They both have the same things that they are responsible for. They both talk to me the same way. They watch for our employees. They watch out for behaviors, things that might, we got a red flag. And then we figure it out. We might have to bring in, talk, have a quick little meeting. Everything okay? What's going on? Might be just something personal that's bothering them, eating at them. Maybe they don't feel good. But we keep it open. We keep an eye on them. And then if there is a problem, we figure out do we need to intervene? Do we have something? Have we been touching something we shouldn't be outside of work? Because we'll drug test you. We'll find out. Better be honest with me. And we do. We drug test them right there at the office.
Yeah.
And if we find out that something's there, then we have to immediately figure out a plan, corrective action. And with that, that's about it. That's your thing. You better do this right because I can't have you aboard, because we're not an organization that outside of that far, that's as far as it goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then from there, you have to figure. Now, I do offer insurance benefits through my company. And in that, we made sure that there is coverage there for therapy sessions, for rehabilitation. It's in there. The coverage is there. We have full medical, vision, and dental available to the employees. We cover half of the medical side.
That's awesome.
And then vision and dental is like just a few bucks. So out of each check. And so we've worked really hard to put those things in place. And so that adds value for me as an employer, because I have that ability to offer that to my people, and then I get better people that way. You got to invest in that stuff.
Yeah. And they also, you can quickly land on this pathway when you start seeing them. When you were describing this aspect where you can kind of watch the subtle signs, you're talking about they're disconnecting.
Yeah.
If you see them moving away from you, usually points to like a problem. I remember whenever I would work with some husbands and wives, whenever back in the day we just had the men's program, but the wives would come back to pick up their husbands after rehab, and they'd be like, well, this is the third time this has happened. Each time I thought everything was going good, and then boom, it just fell off the map, and I was shocked by it and surprised that they relapsed and all this stuff got burnt to the ground again. And they're looking to me sometimes in these conversations of like, what are some assurances that I can have to make sure that he's moving in a steadily good direction? And I'm like, ask him. And I've done this exercise with so many people. I say, ask him right now all the things that he needs to keep doing to maintain the spiritual condition that keeps him well, to stay away from drugs and alcohol. And he'll go over this. I've watched all of them. The list always sounds similar, right?
Yeah.
I got to stay engaged with my 12-step group. I got to stay involved with church. If they're continuing therapy, I got to keep making those appointments and time for it. So I can't be sitting on the couch chilling. Like I have to get out and be involved in activities and different things like that. And they'll go over like a list of 20 things. And what I'm doing during this session is writing them all down, from his own mouth. And then I turn to the wife and I say, when they start doing much of what's on this list, when they start not doing what's much on this list, you're in trouble. They haven't touched a drink or a drug yet, but they're headed back in that direction, because what it shows is active disconnection. And I think that a lot of employers don't trust themselves to see that in a way, because it takes a lot of work to pay attention like that. You guys came up with I think it's Wiffle. That's what you said. Yeah. Wiffle. That's fun. You guys put together these little exercises. They're not significant. They don't take a ton of time to do them, but they're active ways to engage. Hey, how connected is this person to what we're doing today? What's really going on with this person? Sometimes I think in the recovery center, I take it for granted because our entire culture is kind of circled around those sorts of connection pieces. Each one of the guys on my team that you met today when you're coming to be a part of this, they all have sponsors. They're all in recovery. They're all actively engaged. It's a normal dialogue for us. Today, we will talk about recovery things with each other. One of them will share something that they're having difficulties with. We've all cried in front of each other and talked about how frustrated we are.
Yeah. Well, the key thing is in employing folks like this and integrating in with folks that aren't in programs is find a common ground for everyone to have that like-mindedness with. And so, the Wiffle comes from coaching. I do business coaching. And so there are programs through there that I learn as growing a business and scaling a business. And those are things that you can implement. We also, the planning sessions, the quarterly sit down and go over things. We talk about our professional goals, but also our personal and selfish goals. So everybody kind of has this sort of same format that they follow. And so that way we can get people engaged and excited about things that they can try to do for themselves or do if they want to do something within the company, but we separate it. And so, for example, I had a guy who was perfectly content. We were starting our 2026 planning and we sat down, we have some forms that they fill out. We want them to fill out at least 3 or 4 personal and selfish goals. He didn't have any. He was happy to just be in the 1-bedroom apartment that was basically a hotel room. He was happy because he had a girlfriend and those types of things. And we really wanted him to want more. And so we reached into that and we figured out that, he just didn't even think that was in the cards for him to someday own a house. So getting that out of somebody, wow, giving them that goal that they don't think is attainable, that wow, suddenly might be in their crosshairs, that gets them riled up and excited. And so then some of the other guys out there, maybe one's already on the pathway to have that house. And because we do a lot of networking, I happen to have somebody who understands all the ins and outs of getting a mortgage for a first-time home buyer, where those benefits are, how maybe you don't have a down payment, where the credits are, things like that. So I'll link them up with that person to talk to them and get those questions answered. And that's just a part of, because we just network as business owners. So maybe that guy who's already started down the pathway of buying his house is going to talk to the guy who never thought about it and say, yeah, I just talked to, his name's Dan. You got to talk to Dan because he answered all these questions for me. And now I'm on the pathway to buying a house.
Yeah, that's
so
awesome.
So having that common ground with people, keeping like-minded. So the conversation isn't about staying sober, but staying sober keeps you as part of that conversation.
Yeah, it's like the life that I'm in pursuit of. Sobriety comes naturally with that.
You want, exactly. That's just fuel.
That's just fuel.
That's right.
Yeah. See, that's cool. I had a similar experience when I was working with it was a retired DSS director from Cabarrus County. Her name's Karen. She tells this story really cool. They started from DSS to implement for the people they serve, folks who are on SNAP benefits or have whatever kind of social services they have. She said we implemented this social determinants of health platform. It's called Aspire. We use it now in the recovery programs, but it truly is a technology-based platform that helps people measure where they are in like a tiered state of suffering, or are they just struggling with something? Or are they actually reaching their goals in a place to where they're thriving in it? So it's like red, yellow, green. You can rank yourself in these different platforms. And then you can look at like a life map at the end and you can see all of these different categories across 56 things of where I need to, where I think I can improve and stuff. She said they were doing it with the people that they served through their programs, through their government assistance programs. She said one day I picked it up and I sent it to all of our employees. And I said, I approached that same survey, sent it, and she said, I was amazed how many of them didn't get to green in some categories. I was amazed by it. And it was like something clicked for her when she tells the story. It's really insightful because it's like we're so focused sometimes on the people that are the output, right? Our customers, the people that we're serving on the other end, whatever your base or industry looks like, that we miss the people who are in between us and them, who are in a lot of ways more important.
That's right.
On that. I can't have
they're an extension of you.
They're an extension. Yeah. Yes, they are. You're an owner of a company who looks at their people as an extension of me. Yeah, it brings you closer to people who are in that recovery experience, but it also helps you nurture them into a place where they can truly thrive.
Yeah. An exercise that we did with our people during those Friday meetings is we took one of those weeks and we had everybody sit down and we gave them all an index card and had them write 5 things that was, okay, what do you consider is your job here? And everybody was kind of like, at first, like, okay, I'm not quite sure. One guy, especially, he's like, I don't get it. I paint. So how do I come up with 5 things? I come in and paint the house. Like, okay, well, what does it take to get there? And I can give you 2 examples, but I'm going to need 3 more from you. And so the first couple were all that, make sure we're coming in on time, like that. Then they started to get pretty creative. We then took everybody's cards. We didn't don't put your name on them. We did the same thing. I wrote down 5. My wife wrote down 5. My wife is co-owner of the business. But what we did is we took all their answers and we came up with, some of them were the same, but so we combined those and we came up with 15 total. And then the next meeting, we had them each take the list of 15 and circle 5. And then we took those 5, the top 5, and they all were pretty much the same. Mm-hmm. And they branched into creating an environment for our customers to be comfortable, to do our best in the, to present ourselves. Like the things that they came up with were incredible. And we took those and we made those our core values.
Wow.
And so our core values hang on the wall. So the guys that sit in the room and we have the meetings, they wrote that stuff. So they're going to be able to look up that, read that was mine. And so when new people come in, and if that happens to be like somebody happens to be reading the core values, it might just come up and be like, yeah, that was mine. And they take pride in that because they built that.
They built that.
And when we originally started, we had core values that because we're just having a business, we need core values. Let's Google what best core values are. And, we did the typical generic run through of what you should be doing. Treat everybody equally, do this, do that. Now we have it in their words. It's similar, but it's more true. And so again, that just kind of builds our culture. That keeps that motivation of everybody's on the same page. We're here to earn a paycheck and a living and all that, but there's more. And how can we make it more? And how can we keep them engaged and excited and together and kind of root for each other?
I've heard it said a lot of times that the opposite of addiction is community. And the more that I'm watching as our programs grow and all these different folks are a part in their own very unique way. Everyone plays a different role. But the more I'm understanding that like they have to feel that community from somewhere. And the place that they're going to spend minimum 40 hours a week, participating in that kind of activity is a big part of their community. And what, even just in the story you just shared, like they're truly feeling a part of that. This isn't a place that I visit on a day-to-day basis and perform. This is a place that I have skin in the game. This right. is a place that I'm actually engaged with in a way I make a difference. We went through a similar exercise with ours and with our core values. One of the ones that I thought was very unique and most proud of whenever we went through this exercise years ago for our core values was the team landed on one of our strengths and values as self-awareness. That our ability to be aware of our own deficiencies or successes, was one of the key driving factors of how we would stay connected to one another. Being very like you wear it on your sleeve almost, the places that I can prove character defect wise. I thought that was like another creative place to where if you have a group of people who are very self-aware, they can automatically move to a place that they're connected to one another.
That's right. It also goes hand in hand with accountability and taking ownership.
Yes, it does.
And part of our core values, there's exactly those words: taking ownership, holding ourselves accountable. That's one of the paragraphs.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, watching our community take shape. Construction is obviously a huge deal here. There's honestly, everyone says they can't find good people, like you said in the beginning. There's jobs everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Right. There's jobs all over the place, and there's always people who need help. Go on Facebook for 1 second and you can see everybody like, hey, I need someone to help me tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Type of thing.
Absolutely.
But everyone is looking for something a little bit more. And what I was interested to see, and this might surprise you, that actually not since COVID, nonprofit employment has gone up 18%. And you would think, well, they were probably struggling a lot through those years in different places and stuff. But I've come to find it with my own leadership team. I have 2 active participants on my leadership team, now 3, who took significant pay decreases to come fill a position on our leadership team for us. And you know what it speaks to is that people are really looking for meaningful engagement inside to feel like they're working for something bigger than
When you
that.
go to sleep at night, you know you actually did something.
You know you
You know
actually
you
did
actually made
something.
an impact somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that also goes hand in hand with intelligence. People that are intelligent, they need that peace. They need that comfort that they actually did something that holds value outside of the value that you get in the paycheck that you get.
Yeah, I see what you
Yeah,
mean by that.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like it they can't be satisfied just by knowing they came and did.
That's right.
Like they have to understand the why behind it.
That's right.
Um,
It's reflected in the type of work that we do. I don't touch apartments. I don't do new construction. We work in people's homes. We work around their belongings. We move their stuff. The guys have to do things that are outside of just going in and spraying and praying, which is a term in painting. You know, you can't reach out on a ladder, just spray and pray. and and so these guys can come into and we get opportunities to do jobs that are pretty high level jobs. We have my feather in my cap as our business was selected to paint the exterior of the Bellamy Mansion.
oh
So
wow.
my team and guys that still work for me have that. They own that. When their family comes to visit them, they can show them. They can take them downtown. They can say, I painted that.
Wow.
And so that doesn't come with just going out trying to find contracts and putting people to work. That comes with finding the right people to do that type of work and then working on myself so that I can understand what it takes to get there. Yeah,
You're helping them see the part that they do that makes our world a better place.
exactly.
You know, it doesn't have to be a nonprofit human service field for people to understand that there's meaning behind the work that we do.
That's right.
Is that burden is on the owner of the business to flush out for their people, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
Like you have to say that. You have to remind. I know for me, you would say, Josh, the Christian recovery centers with the folks you guys have on the team out there, they all kind of eat, sleep, breathe the mission. They never lose sight of what they're doing. That's not true for us.
Yeah.
Some of them get caught up inside of like the mundane engagements. And I often feel like myself, like I always want them to remember why. You know, because we have to do similar processes to any for-profit company. What they would do, receipts. You know,
Oh, of
Lord,
course.
we
Yeah.
hate receipts.
Yeah. You got to know where the money goes and where it's
Yeah,
coming from.
I mean,
Yeah.
we got a whole system and a person who's dedicated towards reconciling receipts every single month and making sure that we understand where the monies go or operations fit. You know, this morning when I pulled out, our guys, he's laying under a truck, changing the oil in it. You
Yeah.
know, we got 50 vehicles type of thing.
Right.
And you could easily say, what has changing this oil got to do with anything? No, it has everything to do with it.
That's right.
And that's on us, right? Whether you're a nonprofit leader or you have your own company and you're leading the work inside of that industry, you have to remind people why and what we're doing that's much bigger than the paycheck.
That's right. It's always going to be work. We know that.
That's
There's
work.
that piece of it. So what else can we make it?
Yeah.
And getting feedback too from your people is really important. And that goes with sharing the excitement. You know, the thing is if people go into business for themselves and they own a business, and most people have that mindset of I want all the money. And there is people that have never done it before. They don't realize how much goes into building a successful business. And maybe in the beginning you see more money than you know. But to go to the next steps and to build things beyond that, you have to find ways to build success within your team, or else you only get as far as you can get
Wow.
with just that mindset.
Wow.
You know, the concept of what got me here won't get me there has to constantly be nestled into your mind as a business owner. And you have to always revisit what you're doing, because maybe something's near and dear to your heart that's always worked and it's always been perfect and it's always been great. Maybe you've invested a lot of money in it. Maybe you've done this or you've done that. And now suddenly something's now ticking because it only got you to a certain point. And now you got to be ready to maybe scrap it entirely and completely retool and find a new way to engage, to keep your people engaged, to get that next opportunity. And if, say, the opportunity isn't that great, to keep them looking forward to the next great opportunity. That we built something to just, again, play the long game. You know, that's what's important.
Yeah, that's incredible. All right. So let me get this with you. It's been a great chat, but there's other employers who won't hire people inside of our community that they know have a recovery background. Why should they?
If they aren't doing it. I would say that if you think you're missing something, you are, but you got to find out what that is. You better go get an education. You better go invest in yourself. You better look at yourself. Are you perfect? Guarantee you're not. And if you say, not to sound arrogant, but you look at my company and you wonder why our trucks are new and they're clean, and why I'm pulling my own boom lift that I own and I'm not renting from a Sunbelt rental, why our guys are showing up clean and neat, and we're on a higher end job, you got to ask yourself why. What's that guy doing? Well, educate yourself, figure it out, understand that if you're doing a certain thing and you're expecting that, well, then that's you're your own worst enemy. You're only going to do as well as you're doing unless you figure out something new. And so if you think that the answer is to hire people out of recovery, maybe it is, maybe it's not. Maybe you're not hiring right anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe the people that you're having do the things for you, or you're bringing in, or the concepts that you're offering, maybe it's not enough to find the people that you need, the caliber that you need. So if you want more, then you've got to figure out a way to get more. Otherwise, you're just kicking tires. You know
and my sponsor used to always tell me, if you don't give just as much as you expect to get, whatever you have is going to wither up and die.
Yes.
And that's always been something that I carried with me. And for some folks, giving people a second chance is their easy way to give.
Well, if you start with yourself, you do a deep dive on yourself. Learn who you are. If you don't know who you are, well, how are you going to identify with anybody? We tap into what's called a DISC assessment. If you're familiar with a DISC assessment, it gives you back a personality profile. It could be 70 or 80 pages long. And, I've done that on myself. My wife has done them, and we do them with our key people. And so when I'm getting ready to put somebody into a lead position, I give them that DISC assessment. If I'm going to give them any responsibilities outside of going to a job and working under my guys, then I'll look into that. But what that does is it helps me understand the type of person they are. I look at their profile and, okay, well, maybe this person isn't necessarily wanting to be front and center. Maybe their motivation isn't money. Where is the motivation? But if I don't understand who they are, then what good is it? So you gotta humble yourself, and you gotta recognize, you don't know everything. And yeah, sure, you might be sitting on the king of the mountain, but maybe your mountain's only this tall. And you might be looking at somebody else's mountain and wonder why they're there. Well, maybe because they did a little more work. They did a little more climbing,
Well, I gotta say, I appreciate your heart for our community, and I really, really appreciate your second chance mindset that leans you into helping people find that place that they can aspire to their potential. That's meaningful work, and I really appreciate you leaning into that. And it's been a good chat today that we got to have.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah.
Remind the folks of where you're located, and your is JBG Painting. But go ahead and tell me.
Yeah, so the business name is JBG Services Painting Division. We call it JBG Painting because primarily that's what we do. We paint. We are located in Wilmington, but we service the Tri-County area. We are residential, commercial, interior, exterior. You can find us on Facebook. We do have a website, www.jbgpainting.com. The website's pretty cool. It's engaging. You can take quizzes on it. You can learn a lot about stuff, learn a lot about painting. The company itself is owned and operated by me and my wife. I'm the J, Jeremy. Her name is Billy. That's the B.
Okay, I was wondering.
Our last name is Gunn,
Yep.
And so JBG, that's what it is. We're not franchise or anything like that. We grew it from our driveway. It was a pickup truck and me about 4.5 years ago. So that's where we're at.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for participating today, and we appreciate you, our audience, for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Josh, thank you for having me.